Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Foxes Rock here, and I'm so glad to bring you my second ever video on the channel. This is also my very first guide video, which will be focused on Celestial Phase in Oryx 3. My goal is to help you guys not only survive Celestial, but also to become experts at Celestial, which is why this guide is aimed at both beginners and experts. Thank you again for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, go ahead and like and subscribe so you don't miss future content. Follow me on Twitch so you don't miss the creation of this content and some goofy moments. And also, I officially have a Discord server. Join it at the link in the description. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video and benefit from it. Thank you so much. Alright, let's get into it. This guide is going to be organized in the following way. First, we're going to have a guide on what Celestial even is and what happens during the phase. Second, we're going to get into the beginner portion of the guide, which is going to focus on how to prepare for Celestial and then how to survive Celestial. Third, we're going to have the advanced portion of the guide, which is going to focus on, now that you know what to do, how do you get better and how do you do damageless and advanced strategies. Lastly, we're going to get into a montage, so that way you guys can see all of the strategies in action. If you need to skip to any portion of the video, feel free to use the chapters in the description, so that way you can just go to each part of the video as you need. Alright everyone, on to part 1 of this guide. What even is Celestial? So if you're here, it's likely that you have either tried Oryx 3 or you are in the progress of trying Oryx 3. And you're definitely in the right place if that's the case. Celestial is the main phase that people think of when they see Oryx 3. If you cannot beat Celestial, you're not getting through Oryx 3. So, and to prove that point even further, Celestial is not even a part of the fight until Oryx is at 40% HP. So you have to get through a significant part of the fight first. You have to get through Dominance, Dance, and then Exalted itself. And then he'll eventually, after you do enough damage, go to Celestial. You'll notice right before the phase starts, he will say, "Kneel to your ruler, my strength is without equal," which I can never take seriously for some reason, but regardless. He will then say, "Fall before my celestial strength," in all caps. That's how you know the phase is beginning. Then he will go to the middle, the screen is going to darken, and absolutely everyone in the room is going to be silenced for the entire phase. And that is regardless of if you get hit, no matter what your health is, everyone will be silenced. So you can't heal, you can't teleport, all of that you can't do. And this phase is about, it's roughly 22 seconds. He will then rotate. First, he'll start going counterclockwise, like going to the right, top right, and then he'll go to top left, doing roughly 4 rotations around the room, firing triangular shaped shots throughout the entire time. I'm going to show a screenshot on screen of how much damage those shots do. They are lethal, going armor break damage almost as high as 300 damage. So getting lined up is lethal. Aside from that, there's going to be pet stasis portals that go around the entire phase. There's 4 of them, and they are going to be shooting all at the wall, which is why one of my tips is going to be never hug the wall, because it's guaranteed death. But aside from shooting at the wall, the pet stasis portals will also shoot towards the middle. And that is honestly what makes it so hard to dodge Oryx's shots, because you have to deal with those shots too. The main thing that makes it doable is the fact that there are pet stasis gaps. I'm going to speak on that a little bit later. And then finally, when you're at the end, he will be in the middle. He's going to be shooting about 6 waves of additional shotguns. And then he is guaranteed to be staggered. And that stagger is, I see it as almost a reward. You made it through arguably the hardest phase, at least at first. And now you get to get some more damage. So that's kind of the opportunity for like additional damage that could end up either significantly helping the run or completely finishing the run, because Celestial is guaranteed at least once, like I said, at 40 HP, but it can also happen again. I believe it's a 15% chance at the beginning of each phase chain to do Celestial. So that is why, like, if you see Celestial, you honestly can see it as a good thing, because if you're consistent enough with Celestial, then you are guaranteed to make that stagger worthwhile, which is another reason why I'm making this video. So that is what Celestial is. It's a lot to deal with, and that's why I have a lot of tips for you guys here. Okay, now that we have some context on what actually is Celestial, let's move on to the actual tips themselves. You know when Celestial happens, you know what he does in Celestial, so how do you survive? So first, I'm going to give tips that are based on how do you prepare prior to even going in Oryx 3 in the first place, because I feel like it is a lot better to have an idea of what you're going into, which again is part of why I'm making this guide. I'm going to give you guys 4 tips before getting in. The first would be do a practicer of some kind, some sort of Celestial practicer, and there are a lot available. There's a Just Dodge online site. I'm pretty sure it's JDL, Just Dodge lol. It's online, it's free, you don't need to download. It has a Celestial practicer, it also has a Miasma practicer, a third counter practicer, so if you're trying to get better at Oryx 3, JDL has a lot of resources for you. There's also some other like Celestial practicers. I know Arena of the Mad King is a downloadable experience. It is a very high quality standalone practicer. I can link it in the description. Definitely take a look at that if you are interested. But they also have a practicer on there. And there are many other practicers. If you guys would like another one, let me know. But those are two of the most popular ones. So that's number one in terms of tips. Number two would be to watch others do it. That is a huge way to succeed, and that is why at the end of this video, again, I will be putting a montage of all of my successful Celestials. Because when you see others do it, you can inherit what they do and be like, oh, they're doing pretty good. This actually isn't that bad. And then you can hopefully implement what they're using into your experience. Number three is to max out on consumables and don't be shy using them. I have seen way too many people, including myself, not bring enough HP pots and then pay because of it, whether it be Oryx 3 or any fight. That applies widely across Realm, and this dungeon, this phase is a large part of it. Because yes, you are silenced the whole phase, but you are still allowed to heal and you are still allowed to use consumables. You might not have pre-stable to press spacebar, but that's why you bring HP pots. Never be shy to use them. Because something that I've dealt with is I have died with an entire inventory full of HP pots because I have not been generous enough with myself to use them, which is why I highly recommend max out on it. And I'm not just talking about the 6 out of 6 health pots on the bottom left of your bar. I'm talking go into Spider Dens prior to doing an Oryx 3 and get yourself to 5 out of 5 healing Icors. It will help so much, especially because the Icors, they heal 150 health as opposed to only 100. You can also bring just in your inventory any other consumable in the game. Snake oils, you could get the greater health potion from Cogbolt Steamworks. There are so much to work with. The point is just bring some. It's absolutely necessary. So that way you have the greatest chance possible of surviving. Definitely take that point seriously and don't forget it. The last thing is you have to go into Celestial knowing what your strategy is. You can't just go into Celestial like blind without like something in mind. There are a lot of different ways that people tackle this phase, varying from safe spots to micro dodging to pet stasis gaps. I'm only going to recommend one in this video because the safe spot strategy is outdated and was patched, and it's also a little bit too risky. The micro dodging strategy is a little bit iffy just because due to the 4 rotations that Oryx does, there's no way of knowing where the shots are going to be before the phase starts, and therefore it's a bit of a gamble. You don't really know if micro dodging is going to be easy or it's going to be hard, which is why I'm going to recommend a different strategy as the top strategy. The last strategy, which is the one that I think is the safest and also will lead to you getting better in the long run, is using the pet stasis gaps I mentioned before. There are gaps in every single part of the room on the pet stasis portals that you absolutely must take advantage of if you're trying to get through the Celestial phase without the safe spot strategy. The way you take advantage of those gaps is if you go to, let's say you're going to the left banner, which is typically where everybody goes. You go to the left banner, then you have to follow the pet stasis gaps all the way to the bottom banner. That's what everybody does. You typically do a quarter rotation to the next banner. But a big point is that yes, take advantage of these gaps, but don't be too scared if you cannot get to the gap in time, because it is much more important to dodge Oryx's shots. Oryx's shots are by far the most dangerous, the most risky shots, and if you tank those shots, you are a lot more likely to be on the wrong side of the fight and a lot more likely to die. So make sure that, let's say you tank maybe 1, maybe 2 shots of the pet stasis shots. That is more than fine as long as you can dodge Oryx's shots. That's why I say when I lead, focus on dodging Oryx, not the portals. The next thing though, in order to make that possible, is never hug the wall. Yes, focus on dodging Oryx's shots, but don't hug the wall. As soon as you hug the wall, you are guaranteed to die without fail every single time. That's something I had to go through when I was getting started with Celestial, and it was rough. It was very difficult, and I did not want to believe that. So yes, focus on dodging Oryx's shots, but make sure that you are close enough to Oryx and far away enough from the wall that you don't die. So very important point right there. The next point that I'm going to tell you guys about is only move as much as is necessary. That honestly, that matters on any strategy you choose to use. It's very, very important that you're being focused and you're not taking any irrational movements. And the more you are moving around without thinking, the more likely you are to tank a bunch of shots and then be forced to Nexus. I actually have several clips of myself tanking a bunch of shots because I was moving too much and being forced to Nexus, die, or use a lot more HP pots than I wanted to. So it's very, very, very important that you're only moving as much as needed. An extension to that point as well is if you see a gap, like whether it be a gap in the pet stasis shots or a gap in between Oryx's shots, take it immediately as you're progressing to the next pet stasis gap, because you never know when the next gap of shots is going to be, and it's especially important that you're taking your opportunity to dodge the shots. Because let's say that like you are able to move forward, like Oryx's shots just passed, but you decided not to take it, and because you didn't, you get lined up by pet stasis shots and by Oryx's shots, you're gonna die. So it's very, very important that you take advantage of these gaps that you see and don't take them for granted. The last thing that I'm gonna say is it's very important and helpful to visualize the shotguns as they're being shot out by Oryx, because if you're able to visualize them, or at the very least see them before they come, it's a lot easier to dodge. The ways that I'd recommend doing that is make sure you're toggling centering of player, and then if you do want to use screen rotate, that can help. Honestly, whatever way that you are comfortable with, but make sure that you can visualize the way that Oryx shoots out. It's almost like a triangular pattern that he shoots out. Like you'll see, like if you take a close look at Celestial, it is sort of a triangle motion, which means that you're able to position yourself within that triangle and not on the edges of that triangle, which would be where the shots you're tanking are. So it's a lot more important to focus on dodging that. If you cannot dodge anything else, just dodge that. And if you're able to visualize them before they come, it's a lot easier to dodge. And yeah, that was a mouthful, but that is a lot. That is a lot of tips for Oryx 3 that are very, very important. You really need to implement them, you need to try them, or you need to see other people do it before you fully commit. And you're like, oh, I can do this, I'm ready. You need to practice first. And that's why, again, I definitely recommend the practicer. Watch what other people do, watch what I do. So that way when you start, you are not completely overwhelmed and you're not being driven to the corner. So yeah, that is a lot of points for the beginner section. We are now gonna move on to the advanced section. Okay, onto the advanced section of this guide. I'm going to give everybody who is now consistent with Celestial a wide array of tips that will help you maximize the potential of Oryx 3's Celestial phase, how to have more fun with it, and how to really get so good at it that you might not even take any shots, which I've done before and is very easy once you know what you're doing. So listen up and let's see if I can get you guys some more skill on this site. So first, we have maximizing your during Celestial damage. There are a lot of ways to do this. The first way that I would say is smart is bringing a ranged class to Celestial. Of course, not everybody does that and you're not forced to, but if you bring a ranged class, you are far more likely to actually get damage during Celestial as opposed to a melee class, which as Oryx is doing his rotations, you're not really able to go super close to him without tanking a ton of shots and being forced to exist anyway. Any class that has range that gives you the chance to damage him from afar. And in order to make your range damage even more powerful and to maximize the amount of shots you're actually hitting, you need to start at the top right of Celestial, assuming your rotation is completely normal, you're at 0 degrees rotation. Start at the top right. Because, as mentioned before, Oryx will start by moving counterclockwise, but he will go to top right first. And he doesn't actually start shooting until he gets to bottom left, which means that you have an entire about just a little bit under half of a rotation to get maximum damage. What a lot of people do is they will EP for the duration of the time that Oryx is not shooting, which is fully safe as long as you know to stop shooting and to move away once he starts shooting at bottom left. Like if you're in a run with a very low amount of people and everyone is DPS, there are times that you can kill him before he even is finished with Celestial, before he even gets to the stagger. The potential for Celestial is very large if you are maximizing it for damage. The next tip, which I have a lot of experience with, if you've seen my Twitch streams, then you would know this. Full rotations. So I've advocated in this video for strategies ranging from safe spots, micro dodging, to using pet stasis gaps. There are a lot more ways to do Celestial, however, ways that are kind of, what's the word? Stupid? They're kind of stupid, but if you're getting a little bit tired of the same pet stasis gap dodging, you can do Celestial in a much more fun way, which can maximize a chance of getting more damage depending on how you rotate. I'm going to show some clips on screen which give you a chance to see what I even mean by a full rotation. The main difference is just that people who are doing the pet stasis gap strategy, they're only doing a quarter rotation, because let's say they start at the left platform, they will go to the bottom platform by the time that they have gone on all the pet stasis gaps. But what a full rotation is, let's say we're starting at left platform still, or left banner, you would start there and then rotate all the way around until you're back at left side. Here's the way that I do it. And by the way, it is possible to do speedy if you hold your speedy key before the silence starts, by the way. You would do the same strategy as I previously mentioned. Start at the top right so you can get as much damage as possible, but then follow him. You follow him, or rather than like completely follow him and like never stop moving, just stop moving as you need to, as Oryx's shots come like in front of you. And then as soon as they're gone, as soon as you see a gap, immediately start moving again, as you've seen in the clips. And then move and move and move until you're at the left side. It really is a strategy of just using the pet stasis gaps and finding them. And honestly, you don't even need the pet stasis gaps for this. It's honestly something that I wouldn't really advocate for this. I'm not really gonna teach it. I just want to expose it to anyone who doesn't know that this is a way of doing Celestial, or if you knew that it existed but you never actually saw it, now you know. Now you know. So there's that. I think the biggest tip though for this is how to do a damage the Celestial phase. This is the thing that is really important for experts to learn. Once you have done the phase, how do you make sure you don't lose HP pots to it? So again, I'm gonna use starting at the left banner, the green one, as my example, because that is the most popular banner that people go to. Let's say you're starting at the left, and let's say just for the sake of getting damage this, you're not going to do it for the rotation for damage at the beginning. You start at the left, you go to that first gap, and then you go to the next gap. But as soon as possible, go into the gap. Even if it is not fully formed yet, go to where it will be, so that way you don't have to look at the portals and you can look at Oryx's shots. That is what I call preempting the shots. You're able to see that the pet stasis gap is going to be there, so you go there first, so that way you can dodge Oryx's shots. Another strategy for that, because this extends for the entire rotation, you have to do this for the entire rotation, a smart way, like let's say that you got a bad rotation, and a bad rotation, quote unquote, means that the shots from Oryx are going right where the pet stasis gap is. That's what we call a bad rotation. Even if that happens, you can still do damages, because what you can do, if you preempt Oryx's shots and you can tell that he is not doing a good rotation, you can go to where the pet stasis gap is and then move to the left, move away from where the gap will be, so that way Oryx's shots will go into the gap and then you can just go right back through the gap once Oryx's shots pass. That is what I do all the time. And using that preempt strategy, you can see where the pet stasis gap's gonna be, you dodge Oryx's shots, then you go back in the rhythm with the pet stasis gaps. That is how you can make sure that no matter what the rotation is, you can be damageless relatively consistently. Alright, and that just about does it for the advanced tips. All of this just requires repetition, it requires practice, and it requires risking characters and possibly losing them. I promise you it's worth it. I hope these tips have benefited you. It's definitely what I've learned after doing Celestial hundreds, if not thousands of times. Alright everybody, that's a lot of tips. I'm now going to give you guys a chance to see some additional Celestial clips that maximize the strategies that I've mentioned in this video. I hope this would be beneficial to you guys. Be sure to watch through it, just see where I go for the pet stasis gaps. How do I handle this? And see if maybe you could learn something from it. Officially, that is everything for this Celestial guide. Looking back at it after editing, I am so proud. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. I'm so glad to have finally gotten it out. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, follow, and do everything you can because I will be uploading so much more content like this. Put suggestions in the comments of what other guides you would like to see or any other content I should create. Other than that, thank you so much for tuning in and have an amazing rest of your day or night. One last thank you to everyone who made it to the end of the video. Wanted to quickly plug my Discord because I have 2 ongoing giveaways, one for everybody and another for specifically my subs. Good luck if you choose to enter, otherwise I hope to see you again on my channel sometime very soon. And most importantly, go get them on those Celestials.